Hello there and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I'm Victor Mathias. Now, the social media and microblogging community got a boost last week as Meta, owned by billionaire techpreneur Mark Zuckerberg, launched Threads to rival Twitter, which was founded by Jack Dorsey and now owned by serial entrepreneur Elon Musk. The launch of the new app ruffled Mr. Musk's feathers as he claimed, much to the chagrin of his supporters, but to the delight of others who believed he has turned Twitter into more of a business venture rather than a platform for free speech as originally created by Dorsey. On the program today, we will look at the controversy that has trailed the launch of the new app and what it portends for its rival, as well as issues around theft of trade secrets. But before we get into all of that, let's first of all get what made the trends before we get into this interesting conversation in the past week.
Nigerians, including Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka, waded into the controversy that arose as a result of the cancellation of a Yoruba annual cultural ceremony in the north-central city of Ilorin by the Emir. Professor Soyinka and many other Nigerians had criticized the cancellation, maintaining that it's a crime against the cultural heritage of all humanity and an assault on civilized conduct. However, the Emir of Ilorin denied any wrongdoing and described the decision as proactiveness necessary to sustain peaceful coexistence in the society. This brought to the fore the debate about tolerance, freedom of thought, association, and acceptance among Nigerians. Nigerians went into a frenzy as the government of Seychelles, a popular destination for Nigerian tourists and honeymooners, placed an entry ban on holders of Nigerian passports. While some justified the ban, others argued that the sins of a few cannot be used to punish more than 200 million others who are legitimately carrying out their businesses. The ban is as a result of the arrest of alleged Nigerian drug peddlers at the country's airports. And the controversy that surrounded the claim by Mesoma Ejikeme that she scored the highest in the 2023 UTME examination was brought to an end as she confessed to manipulating the result sheet. The Anambra State Governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, has since asked for her to undergo therapy as her father pleads with the nation to forgive her action.
Well, there you go. Those were the trends in the past week. But joining us now to look at today's topic, we have with us Saadatu Aliu. She is the managing partner at Hamu Legal, an innovative multidisciplinary firm based in Abuja. Her practice is focused on the intersection of law policy and emerging technology. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Matthew.
Absolutely. We also have joining us Bella Rose Okoje-Duruji. She is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of TechCity.com. She is also a broadcaster with over a decade's experience, one of the first tech YouTuber content creators in Nigeria, and an award-winning creative in the film and broadcast journalism sectors. It's a pleasure to have you as well on the show, Bella Rose.
It's great to be here, Victor. Good to see you again.
Absolutely. Good to see you as well. Good to see both of you, actually. You heard my intro. You guys are not lost, to what transpired after what's it called, the launch of Threads. But first of all, Saadatu, are you on Threads? And what was your reaction with all of the drama, that followed suit after the launch?
Well, the dramas were a lot, but I think the first one that hit the internetverse was the letter from Elon Musk's lawyer challenging Meta that they've engaged former employees of Twitter who have stolen trade secrets to sort of which they have used to develop Threads. I think firsthand is to look at what is really defined as trade secret within this realm, and two, were they employees that really just left Twitter for the purpose of going back to Meta to create this application, or were they even employees that were fired by Elon Musk and Twitter as a whole? Even though we are yet to see further action that has been taken by Elon Musk's lawyers in particular, for cases like this, the burden of proof really rests heavily on Twitter to prove that those employees, number one, actually stole trade secrets, and those things that he claimed to have been stolen has been communicated to the employees as trade secrets. And number two, how has he suffered economically by virtue of them either departing Twitter to transfer this trade secrets to Facebook as well? We are still curious to see how this evolves. Time will tell if they eventually take it to court. But as for now, we're all seeing and waiting to see what's next.
Well, indeed, we all are waiting to see what's next. But let me quickly also hear from Bella Rose. Bella Rose is joining us via Zoom from Lagos. Bella Rose, what were your thoughts when this started on the internet, actually?
I think it was very interesting to see how Mark Zuckerberg, of course, takes on ideas and a few other businesses or products and makes them his. It's not the first time he's doing this. It's not the first time Threads is in fact being a thing from Meta. Threads was launched in 2019. It was supposed to be a Snapchat competitor. It did not succeed, and it was rested only to resurface in 2023 as a Twitter alternative. But I think that it's business. It's brutal. You know what I mean? He's taking this on. But I think that beyond that, it's also the need for people to keep up with the times and keep up with new social media apps that are springing up every single day. Social media managers are in for it. They're not only going to be updating YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Instagram Reels, Twitter, LinkedIn. There is now Threads for them to upload stuff to. So it's a lot of work. Of course, it would require, I think, a new set of skills, not that many, because, of course, as you know, Threads is text-based, and so the experience that people have built from using Twitter will definitely be useful here. But then people are saying Threads is also a TikTok for text. So there's going to be a new set of skills that you have to figure out with regards to how you can post. There's no DM feature just yet. I think they're also just still iterating as the app gets a lot more people on board, and a lot of things are going to come to the fore. There's also the issue around not being able to delete your Threads account. That was major when the app was launched, and it made me concerned as well. I had to go research that just to be sure that I knew what I was getting myself into. Even though it was a bit too late, I had already downloaded the application and all. But, GDPR laws may force Meta to ensure that people are able to delete their Threads account without losing their Instagram accounts. According to the GDPR laws, every person who has data has the right to be forgotten. People can choose that they do not want to be remembered for using an application or having their data stored somewhere. So I'm hoping that over time, with a lot more engagement, with people asking questions, that these GDPR laws will come to place. And Mark Zuckerberg is not new to some of these things, so I'm sure he's ready for the fight.
Well, so you've raised, quite a lot of number of issues. So the fact that people will have to, acquire new skills. So I want to look at that part, as some form of job creation kind of side of it. And then the law part of it, I would come back to you on that. But again, you also said, like there's a pattern, so to speak now, because it was initially, like you said, created in 2019 to rival Snapchat. But, if you look at Meta seem to have, apps that, rival others. So the what's it called? The videos, or what do you call it, on Instagram?
Reels.
Yeah, the Reels. Okay, thank you for coming to my aid. So the Reels, there seems to be a pattern, from Mac, copying others to make his own, company. So perhaps that was one of the reasons why Elon would have gone to court.
So I think that beyond that, again, like I said before, Mark Zuckerberg is not new to some of these issues where people say, well, he's copied us and we're taking him to court, etc. But with Elon Musk, I think it's a bit more of what Threads looks like, right? And I was on air a couple of days ago, and I said I'm not sure how, and maybe your other guests can help us out here. I'm not sure how much protection an interface can have. Elon Musk, is suggesting that they have copied what Twitter exactly looks like, and Meta has responded and said there is no member of the Twitter team on our team that developed Threads. And so I think that's I guess slightly more advanced conversation where it's like, okay, what exactly are we referring to here? And again, Mark Zuckerberg has a way with making sure that there are a few unique, peculiar features about some of his own either applications or features within applications, right? So Reels is not an app, it's not a separate app. It is a feature on Instagram, right? And so it's like, well, we're not copying anyone. We are still a photo and video sharing application. We're just, trying to create more fun for people who are on the application. And so, yes, it's a business thing. He's trying as much as possible to ensure, I think he's trying to make people remain on those apps that he has created by bringing new ideas and bringing new features onto them, such that if anyone has anything to sue him for, he might just, hands up and say, I did not do anything. It's my app. I'm just still trying to make better every single time. So he might have that as a defense. But like your other guest said, time will tell.
Well, you actually beat me to saying that time will tell, because, I wanted to say time will tell, if any of this is going to play out. But let me come back to Saadatu. So Belarus raised the issue of, the GDPR being able to force, Elon, on certain aspects of the app. But that's, in Europe. In Nigeria, we have the NDPR. But how effective is it? Because with the GDPR, we've seen Facebook, we've seen Google, being fined millions of dollars, so to speak. Now, I mean, to what extent will all of this, have an effect? That's the NDPR, when it comes to that point.
Okay, so it's good that you've referenced it, and I think one of the crises or issues of concern for Meta, I'm sure, and Facebook and Mark today will be, okay, what's this conversation about people's data? Well, to start with, you referenced the GDPR. Threads is not yet in the EU because they've graduated from the GDPR to the Digital Marketers Act. So Threads is not in EU because they need some certain level of regulatory approvals. This is in view of the interoperability between the Threads app, Facebook, and every other application which Facebook owns. At the moment, based on the provisions of that act, which is mainly a replication of the GDPR, Meta is seen as maybe like a major marketer. So you can't just come in and be a gatekeeper. So within 90 days, you would know globally, everyone will know who are the platform owners of which the EU has declared as major gatekeepers. So in terms of Nigeria, the NDPR, which is also, we now have the Digital Rights Act, it's almost a replication of the GDPR, but not to the extent of social media regulation. We're still at a point of first layer data protection in Africa overall. Once we breach that layer of understanding your rights, ensuring that there is safety, privacy policies are complied with, we begin to examine what are those things these platforms are doing that are to the detriment of users. Number one, which Belarosa has also referenced, is the inability of a user to say, you know what, I am off Threads, but I'm unable to delete my account without deleting my Instagram account, which means if you've been on Instagram for, let's say, 10 years, there are people who have thousands of followers, and due to the excitement and the interoperability that was marketed when Threads launched, majority of people clicked on it, joined it without the realization that there is this additional privacy, there's this additional constraint that if you wake up and decide, I don't want to do this anymore, I would also have to delete my Instagram account. But it's useful to know, still Threads allows you to deactivate your account. and it's not even in the clear privacy policy. They created a supplemental privacy policy specifically outlining these issues. So when it comes to enforcement on social media company, when it comes to data rights, since now we have an act in Nigeria, I'm hoping to see what would happen and what would transpire.
Yeah.
But additionally, I think an issue of concern for most developing countries when it comes to all of these social media platforms is what are the steps they are taking to address things like misinformation and disinformation?
Yeah.
How
So
are
let me.
rules being complied with?
Yeah, let me hold you, just for a bit on that. I'll come back to you to, speaking about solutions now. But one of the things that one of the solutions that I just picked out from what you just said is the fact that most people don't read terms and conditions; they just okay it, and because of the excitement, like you said, they just okay it and then they go ahead without reading the terms and conditions. But I'll come back to you in just a moment. We need to take a quick break, and of course, when we come back, we'll get more in terms of solutions on how to, get on this apps without necessarily burning your fingers. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. We'll still have with us via Zoom Saadatu Aliu from Abuja, as well as Bella Rose Okoje Druji from Lagos, both of them joining us via Zoom. But just before we went on break, Saadatu was giving us tips on what to do to remain pretty much safe, so to speak. Now, Saadatu, talking about, those things you mentioned, misinformation, disinformation, what do you think they should be doing differently than what we currently have? I think your mic is on mute. Can you please unmute?
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
I think
fine.
overall, a lot of the platforms, because they wield a lot of power and influence across the country, they have a responsibility to ensure they are as responsive in removing or tagging content that are false or have ability to misinform on their platforms. On Twitter, we've not seen that level of activeness, at least in Nigeria, but Facebook has done tremendously better than Twitter has within this framework. So these are issues from a regulatory perspective. I would expect to see the Nigerian government sort of begin to engage and interact with platforms in addition to the data privacy issues in terms of enforcement that you were also mentioning, and also as citizens or as individuals. Of course, when you download applications, the consideration is not, I want to read maybe a 1,500 privacy policy. The most important thing is, how does it solve my problem? How do I spread my content? Because the reality is, it's a social media platform, not an encrypted messaging platform. It is there to enable you spread information. But even whilst doing that, there are privacy concerns. And these privacy concerns are with respect to our location, amongst other things. But the social media companies today also recognize it. That's why they're going back to create a more decentralized system, in the sense that I can look at the content on Threads without even being on Threads. But it doesn't remove me as an individual from the responsibility of saying, what is this information I'm divulging or I'm giving?
Yeah.
And another thing to pay attention to when it comes to Threads is there are no ads at the moment, which is really the main gain for most of the social media companies in collecting and retrieving data. And it will also interest you to know Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram are even collecting more data than Threads. But it's just the fact that this is the new kid on the block, and people are more aware of their privacy, their rights, amongst other things. So the conversation is more robust, the conversation is more rapid, but it's no any different than every other Meta platform, because everything on Threads interconnects with the standard Meta privacy policy on Instagram as well as on Facebook. But in addition to that, they now have this supplemental privacy policy.
All right, I'll come back to you in just a bit. But speaking about Thread not yet being, on the market, so to speak. Now that's for ads and for marketing specialists to begin to put that forward. Bella Rose, the numbers have been growing, so I want to think that it's just a matter of time. Because if you looked at how quickly people got on Threads, the numbers have been skyrocketing since then. I think it's the social media app with the fastest growing social media, from inception. So I think it's just a matter of time before marketing executives, specialists, and all of that get to work. But I mean, you are the expert here.
You are spot on.
Tell
You
me
are spot
something.
on, Victor. It's a matter of time. However, again, this is with regards to the concerns that many users have raised with how Threads doesn't have any advertising just yet, and how things may change. Now, in response to some of the issues that has made Twitter less fun to be on, Adam Mosseri, I think, was addressing some of these issues and said, Threads is not going to be about politics or news. It's only going to be for entertainment, sports, fashion, light-hearted stuff. We want to try to stay away from negativity. We want to try and stay away from, stuff that's that borders around propaganda. We want to only focus on light-hearted topics. And, some schools of thought say when he specifically mentions fashion, sports, and entertainment, it is a green light of sorts to brands that are in that space. He doesn't say anything explicit, he just mentions them. But then, in PR speak, when you mention certain things, you get the attention of people who play in that space. And so it is a nudge of sorts to these people to say, we may be interested in talking about your stuff. We may be interested in prioritizing your content, maybe even doing advertising for you when the time comes. Now is not the time. They are making sure that there are more and more people who are coming on board, which is typical of any application and maybe any tech company. It is about the adoption. It's about the onboarding. How many people have you onboarded? Now they are in their tens of millions, and that's awesome. But over time, advertising is going to happen. Now, with regards to how they choose to prioritize and how they choose to advertise, there is a potential that in their bid to not perhaps make money from politics and news, they may prioritize accounts that are, again, sports, entertainment, and fashion on the algorithm, because they are the ones who control the algorithm in a sense. It is likely that they will recommend some of these kinds of accounts to people to follow. It's also very likely that should any one of them choose to start paying for advertising, they are going to start prioritizing, some of this content over stuff that's political or stuff that's centered around news.
Well, we have to wait and see how all of this is going to play out. But I mean, just as we wind down, what would be your last words? I mean, what would you tell those who, like me, didn't join the bandwagon, to get on Threads? What would you be telling them to look out for before they make the move?
I think it is very okay for you to think twice before you join a new application. It's perfectly normal. It's fine for you to say, I'm not joining the bandwagon. I think also that for as many who have already joined, I think it's important for us to understand the rights that we have, maybe particularly Nigerians, because I feel like sometimes there is this culture of not being able to air your displeasure, or that thing of not being too outspoken about what you do not like, because the application is free anyway. So they are doing you a huge favor by making the application free. But it's important, if you are not okay with your data being collected, it's okay to cry out and say, I demand to know how my data is being used. I demand that I want to be able to delete my Threads account and still keep my Instagram account. And I think that we need to sort of talk a bit more on data at this time. Thankfully, Sadato has also mentioned what the NDPR is doing. I think that's really awesome. I am personally looking forward to a lot more engagement. I'm looking forward to more news and more information coming from that sector, where Nigerians know what data is. Nigerians demand from, whether it's even banks, whether it's applications, whatever it is, they demand to know how their data is being used. So I think that it's a very good time for that education to go viral.
Absolutely, I quite agree with you. But let me also quickly get Saadatu's closing remarks, especially as regards to what people need to be doing, before jumping on new applications when they are the new kids on the block and they are the talk of the town and, pretty much exciting everybody. Saadatu.
Well, I think just like Bella Rosa has mentioned, just be conscious what you are sharing within those platforms. But I think it's a very exciting time to be alive in the social media space. As of 10 years ago, we only had Facebook, but today we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Snapchat. I mean, we have Blue Sky. So the decentralization, and I think we're beyond maybe the second or third or fourth generation. I'm not even sure what version of social media evolution we're present at, but this is the next phase of communication for as long as we would know it. So it's important to don't go into it out of just fear. So you know what, I'm not going to do it because my data, but you have the right to your data. The power is in your hands. You have to approve the policy. You have to approve to share certain things. So don't think anybody is stealing away your data, but just don't go in eyes closed. Stay woke, as the Gen Zs will say.
Absolutely, stay woke. And this is pretty much the time, because more of these apps would come in the coming years. Like you said, 10 years ago, we had only one, but this time around, by this time, we have multiple of them. But I have to say, as we look forward to more of those apps, let's, like you said, let Nigerians stay woke. But on this note, I have to say thank you to you, Saada, too, for joining us on the show, sharing your thoughts. It's been a pleasure having you on the program today.
Thank you so much, Victor. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Bella Rose as well. It's been a pleasure having you on the show and sharing your thoughts with us as Bella Rose and not as not Bella Rose.
Victor, thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anytime. Well, that's where we are. That's the show today. Thank you so very much for being a part of it. If you haven't joined the new platform, as they have said, be mindful, be careful, stay woke before you press that button and be a part of the new application. But that's where we'll wrap it up on the show today. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Victor Matthias, would leave you with the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week.
Probably if we met, maybe I could have slapped him.
The drama between two former governors of Kano State kicks off this week's top 5 videos as the immediate past governor, Umaru Ganduje, says he would have slapped his predecessor, Rabiu Kwankwaso, when he met him in the presidential villa.
Mr. Public like that.
It is followed in fourth by the charge given to the newly appointed service chiefs by the Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, Bola Tinubu, during their first meeting.
July.
Third spot sees the arrest of 15 suspected IPOB members responsible for disrupting the peace in Enugu State, where residents refused to obey the sit-at-home order given by the separatist group. Second spot is taken by the video. Second spot is taken by the video of the father of Mmesoma Ejikeme leaving things to God before the controversy surrounding her forged result was laid to rest.
After the GAM examination, my daughter checked from GAM Portends and they sent her SMS, direct her to check her result.
While in first is Senator Ifeanyi Ubah sending a stern warning to the self-acclaimed leader of the separatist group to observe his sit-at-home in his village and leave Anambra State alone.
We have observed